There's a large effort to push commands to more cloud-based comps and collaboration tools. These require low latency networks, which are great in garrison. What efforts are in place to allow these tools to work over tactical SATCOM networks? Maybe aligns a little bit to what we were just talking about, but any thoughts along those lines?
So the cloud environments, right, as we move to these cloud environments, and there is a appropriate place to it, and a lot of the analogy that I use, obviously I use lots of analogies to try to simplify it for my understanding, really. But the the value that you have in it, right, is if you need, you have a big party once a month that lasts a week, and so I need a mansion, manicured lawns, big time, but I only do it once a month for a week. So the rest of the time I just need a studio apartment, right? When you build out the capability to have, I don't need to go buy a mansion, and that's what the cloud environment gives us, is that scalability rapidly when we need it. But then you can also descale, so you just kind of pay for what you use. So that's where it has its application. But the latency of it, this is where a lot of the edge compute that we talk about now. So now if you do if you can put forward on a sensor, whether it's in space, terrestrial, undersea, but you put forward there the appropriate algorithms on that device, the compute, the sizes of them are so small now that you can do the compute there. So now the only information you're sending over the bandwidth is the viable information that you need ahead of time, and so you reduce your latency requirement, and you really could do that in a way now that the cloud, when we talk about the cloud, a lot of times we think about large server farms, right, sucking a bunch of energy, but now if you have these edge devices and you have these edge devices connected forward, now you have a cloud forward and you have your edge forward that's on the back of infantrymen out there, or on the back of guardians or sailors, or in the vessel. So the technology's there. So I think the latency concern in garrison or outside of garrison is being addressed really by the industry partners in this room, and so that's always the challenge, right? How do you do that forward? If you're sending the F-35 forward and he needs a certain SATCOM that is there, then you get into your PACE plan again, and if you don't limit it to just one bandwidth, one satellite that it can talk to. You have to have the redundancy built in forward, and you do that through, so the cloud environment per se, and you kind of pull the curtain back on what is the cloud. Is it's other people's servers, or it's servers anywhere. And so if you have that on the edge compute, then I think your cloud gets pushed forward. I think the latency issues will get addressed because of the type of compute that you're doing forward.
Thank you. Liz?
Yeah, so from a STRATCOM perspective, if you look at our tactical edge is really our submarines and our bomber aircraft, tanker aircraft that need to go forward, and they're probably not going to be, in many cases, cloud just isn't going to do it for them. So we're going to continue to look at, you mentioned the PACE plan. Absolutely, that's exactly what we do. We look at a PACE plan. What we typically do from a STRATCOM perspective is look at what's the minimum amount of information that those platforms are going to need going forward. Edge computing, I'm hopeful that NC3 Next Gen will enable us to get a little bit more after that. But even if you look at cloud computing and latency, we're looking a lot at cloud computing from a resilience perspective for strategic command. We're not all in on everything that's going to a cloud, just because we have more requirements for our command to be able to operate through on the very worst day that you can imagine. And we need to make sure that, no kidding, we've got the ability to do that where the commander is. So a lot of times that probably isn't going to be available with the cloud. That said, really looking forward to the ideas, thoughts that academia and industry can bring forward from an edge computing, or maybe there's something else in the next generation. What does it look like for NC3 Next Gen? Can we afford it? Is there ability to not only have our resilience that we need, but to be able to leverage data from anywhere, which is some of the benefit that the cloud will bring. So that's kind of how we're looking at it at STRATCOM.